Birdsong at Conover Cove Subdivision located on the west side of Webster Road, just north of the Bird Sanctuary Trail. Applicant Grove Underhill LLC is requesting sketch plan review associated with proposed 9-lot single-family residential cluster subdivision on a 5.55-acre parcel in a single-family residential district under sections 269-5 and 296-27 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
And now we're in business.
Hi. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Peter Bars from BME Associates. Appearing tonight on behalf of the landowner and applicant, Grove Underhill LLC. As mentioned, we're here this evening to present to you and discuss with the board a sketch plan for a proposed single-family residential development, single-family residential subdivision of 5.5 acres in a residential R3 zone. As I mentioned, the property does consist of about 5.5 acres, and it's located along the west side of New York State Route 250. It occupies about 285 feet of frontage along the state highway, and it's north of the town of Webster's conservation lands, conservation area that encompasses the Bird Sanctuary Trail. Property is bounded to the west and to the north by existing single-family residential development, Conover Cove Lane, Holly Road, and Foothill Circle town roads. The property is currently vacant and is characterized by successional vegetative growth. At the west end of the property, as we mentioned, Conover Cove Lane, which is a town road, dead ends at the property's west property line, and it does have a temporary turnaround at that dead end. The owner applicant is proposing a residential subdivision of these lands for single-family residential lots. And this would be achieved through the extension of Conover Cove Lane to the east. This would complete the street extension out to Webster Road. It would provide an alternate means of access to and from the neighborhood. And it would propose single-family lot residential development consistent with the existing single-family residential neighborhoods that exist north of the Bird Sanctuary Trail lands. But the applicant is proposing this development as a cluster subdivision pursuant to Town Law Section 278 and Town Code Section 296-27. As part of that process, we have prepared for the board's consideration and as required by the Town Code, a conventional plan layout to determine the allowable density of the 5.5 acres per the R3 zoning district. We did this through two means, both identified within the code, and came up with a yield of 9 single-family lots for the 5.5 acres. One means of doing that, and this was provided in your application package, is the preparation of what is known as the conventional plan, a plan that is prepared where the lots do all conform with the R3 zoning criteria. And in this case, the R3 zoning criteria is a minimum lot area of 22,000 square feet and a minimum lot width of 100 feet. The conventional plan that we provided to you illustrates how those 9 lots could be configured, including the extension of a town road, meeting the requirements of the town road of a 60-foot right-of-way that would encompass the public utilities to serve the development. The other means of determining density within the clustering provisions of the town code is spelled out in Town Code Section 296-27D, which is basically a calculation process you walk through based on the total project area, less any lands that need to be set aside, whether it is for public right-of-ways or any natural feature protections. Those calculations were provided within the letter of intent, the application letter submitted to you, and they're also identified on the cluster plan. They're spelled out on the cluster plan also, and that calculation showed a maximum yield of 9.3 acres, so obviously we round down. So through both of those mechanisms, we were able to determine that the allowable density on this property is 9 single-family lots. So the applicant is proposing a cluster subdivision plan of this property, and this plan, we do believe, meets the intent of Town Code Section 296-27.b, which spells out the intent of cluster subdivision design within the town of Webster. And that intent spells out that cluster subdivisions the intent of them is to encourage flexibility in the design of a subdivision, to promote appropriate use of land, facilitate adequate and economical provision of streets and utilities, and to preserve natural and scenic qualities and open spaces. We believe the proposed clustering plan we've provided to you achieves this, and this achieves it in several ways, which we did spell out in the application letter. This includes the fact that we provide an adequate and practical approach to the stormwater management on the property by placing it within a half-acre set-aside parcel to consolidate all of those practices into onto one parcel. We also provide lands along New York State Route 250 that would accomplish a couple things. First of all, it does provide serves as a buffer between the state highway and the residential neighborhood to the west. It also, through an extension of the town lands to the south of the property, would allow extension of town lands up to what would be the extension of the Conifer Cove Lane right-of-way, such that it would provide the ability to extend the bird sanctuary trail, or a link that would allow residents of Conifer Cove Lane and those neighborhoods to have direct access to the trail. So it's taking, the clustering allows us to take advantage of the presence of the town open space to the south of the property, the presence of the trail, and be able to expand and encourage access to those lands from the existing residential neighborhoods through the provisions of the town land extension up to Conifer Cove Lane. The lot standards that are proposed with it as part of the cluster subdivision is a minimum lot width of 90 feet, a minimum lot area of 16,000 square feet, and 10-foot side setbacks. The lots would still maintain the R3 zoning criteria of 50-foot front setbacks and 50-foot rear setbacks. For the 9 lots proposed on the cluster subdivision, the lot widths range from 90 feet wide to 120 feet wide, and the lot sizes range from 16,000 square feet to 24,400 square feet. So that averages out for the 9 lots an average lot width of 105 feet and an average lot area of 19,455 feet. The cluster plan as proposed, though, also remains consistent with the existing single-family residential development in the immediate area, and specifically on Conifer Cove Lane itself. The Conifer Cove Lane, as it extends to the west and terminates in a cul-de-sac, has lot widths that range from 65 feet wide to 100 feet wide, and has a minimum lot size of 18,000 square feet. The cluster plan that we are proposing provides a logical extension of Conifer Cove Lane, consistent with the existing development within these neighborhoods, while also providing the benefits that we've mentioned here this evening and spell out for you in the letter of intent or application letter. All 9 lots would be served by public water and public sanitary sewer through extension of existing facilities that are located within the Conifer Cove Lane right-of-way. As we mentioned, we would consolidate the stormwater management facility in the northwest corner of the property. And also the proposed access point onto New York State Route 250 does have adequate site distance per the requirements of the New York State DOT. A couple last things. We did receive the MRB group letter dated November 28th, and we received that on Friday. We did provide this morning written responses to those, but I basically highlighted our responses already in the presentation this evening, which is our belief and our justification that the application of the clustering provisions of the town code is appropriate for this property, and that as proposed it does meet the intent of the town code for clustering. So as such, myself and actually Mr. Mitchell Brodsky and Jeff Bell, both from Grove Underhill LLC, are here to answer any questions, but we are looking to discuss this with you and look for the support of the board for the clustering of the subdivisions and providing us the necessary direction so we can proceed with a preliminary application in the near future. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We do have both the conventional and the cluster drawings in front of us. And this was discussed pretty much at length at the PRC meeting last week. I think the consensus actually was to build it under standard sized lots at that meeting. You were giving reason why it could also be otherwise. The downside with the conventional, where you're showing detention in the back of a couple of the lots there, that would have to be changed. It has to be on one parcel, as opposed to carrying over, under two. Similar to you had, it was what you're showing on your cluster development, all on one lot. I don't really know, and again, this PRC, that parking area you're proposing there, that wasn't really too well accepted by everybody, the town.
And that's fine. It was just an option that if the Parks and Rec Committee or department, excuse me, had any desire for it, that it would be made available by the developer.
Now, the original development, Confer, is that a cluster? Those lots are cluster development in there, or was that standard?
We had not found the record of how that subdivision was approved, whether it was approved under standard zoning at the time or whether it was a cluster subdivision. I do not know that answer.
I think that was standard development back then, standard size lots. They both are obviously projects, a project that's to have been anticipated because the road did end. There's a temporary turnaround going over to Webster Road. So now, you know what, let's do this. This is not a public hearing, that's the next meeting would be. This is just a sketch plan, which preliminary is where you can speak. But apparently, you got a bunch of neighbors that are there, right? So if you want, we'll open it to the public. We'll open it anyways and let you speak, but just, I'm going to ask you, please, just keep it short, don't go into a whole lengthy, if you want to do that. All I ask is, sure, go ahead up and you can speak. Just give us your name and address.
My name's Hugh Lee.
I could do that.
My name is Hugh Lee. I am a resident on Conifer Cove Lane. In fact, we would be right here. So obviously, I am not as familiar with many of the questions you might be looking at from a technical or engineering or buildings side, but I would note a couple of things. One is that our concerns, we do have a lot of water coming into our house to begin with. So obviously, we would want to know what effect this kind of development, what effect the development as well as what effect the reservoir or holding pond being there would have on our residents, as well as some of the other people next to us, because I know that the people behind us would also have that same concern. The second thing I think that we'd be concerned with, and it sounds like you actually addressed a little bit of it, is I think there is probably a technical plan that would be acceptable, and then there's like more of the cultural feel for the town, and we would probably be willing to speak to that. I think one of the concerns that we have is we want to make sure that if we've been a standard development, that it conforms to that same kind of feeling. I think I just heard that the parking is out. We were worried about the parking type of situations there. So more than just the structure, obviously it's how it affects the Webster community and the culture that's all around that, and particularly our neighborhood we talk about. From my other perspective, while I don't have children anymore, the cut through, I am concerned with people flying through there, and I'm sure some of my neighbors can kind of talk to that. And I'm not sure how heavy that would be, but it's a question from our perspective. The third question from my perspective, again, and it kind of goes back to the community again, and our side of the community, and that is the environment in terms of the bird sanctuary, the walking capabilities, and what it does to our ability to both access, which if I understand Mr. Vars' access was down there, but also people from other parts of the neighborhood having to come through our neighborhood, or come through our yard actually to get through that. I'm not sure how that would work, or would they have to walk all the way down and then all the way over? So those are kind of some issues that we'd be concerned with in terms of water, in terms of how it's in keeping it is with our overall development, and how it affects the bird sanctuary and people's access, as well as traffic.
I'm his wife, and just to add on the water part of it.
Wait a minute.
You have to go to the
Yeah,
water.
yeah.
All right, okay.
You want to give my wife
So, I'm Grace Lee, I'm Julie's wife. Again, we live at 1290
Use
Conifer.
them, get closer to them.
We live right at 1290 Conifer Cove, which is adjacent to where the water
Gotta stay by the
reservoir.
mic though.
Pardon me?
Gotta stay by that mic. You walk away, you lose it.
Sorry. So we're adjacent right to where the water reservoir would be. But to add on to what my husband said, I just want to make sure about the elevation of the development that would be going next to us, that it's not higher than our property. Because obviously then the water is going to come towards our property. So I'm just concerned that that whole development is not higher than the existing Conifer Cove properties.
Yeah, that's generally, that would be engineering detail, and he'll explain that. And no water will actually run off of that parcel onto your parcel. And that's why they'll end up with swales and so on and so forth. He'll explain it. Okay, is there anyone else wishing to give a comment? Give us your name and address.
My name is Eric Holtz, 1293 Foothill Circle. And my first and major concern is what's in the ground back there? What's underneath the soil? Is it rock or slate? And my main concern is there going to be blasting? Because obviously if, if the construction company has to dynamite or use any type of blasting techniques, that could affect foundations in that whole neighborhood. So that's my main concern. Is there going to be a test to see what's underneath there and make sure that there's no dynamite or blasting?
Okay.
My first concern. We talked about the retention ponds. We know with retention ponds come the geese. With the geese come the feces and the mess they make. That's a concern of mine. That whole area is green space. I spent years trying to track the Baltimore Orioles back to my yard, the bluebirds, everything. All of that is going to be destroyed. The whole habitat is going to be destroyed. There's fox, there's coyotes, there's everything back there, and that's one of my concerns as well. And then on the application, there's a question, will it increase traffic? Well, obviously, if you cut to 250, the traffic is going to be increased. Anybody who lives at Holly, Conifer Cove neighborhood is going to cut down Conifer Cove now instead of Mill Creek Run. And I don't live on Conifer Cove, but if I did and I had children, I'd be very concerned with the increased traffic pattern that's going to come through there.
Okay. You do understand that the road ended right there on that property though, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's a dead end.
Was to keep going through.
I'm sure that was the intention 50 years ago or 40 years ago.
And as far as your other comment about being forever wild, no, it isn't.
No, I know it's not.
If you buy it.
No, I know it's not forever wild. I'm just saying the development is going to destroy the wildlife in there.
May not destroy it, it will relocate it somewhere.
Correct, away from everybody else that lives there. It's going to be relocated away from us, all the wildlife. That's all I say.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing?
Deborah White, 1279 Holly Road. Concerns, particularly, I know it is not forever wild, but the bird sanctuary trail over time has been impinged by the neighborhood, and it is such a gift to the community that I hate to see more impinging on that space there and the wildlife that lives there. I'm also, don't know the plans here, but it seems to me that most of the development within Webster, there is clear cutting and then building, and given the age of our neighborhood and the beauty of the trees and all the foliage, that if clear cut would not fit, would even more destroy the habitat of the animals. And so I'm very concerned about clear cutting that. I don't know again what the plans are, but pulling off the topsoil, selling that to people, it just changes the whole feeling of what we're about in the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Cecilia Robello, 1291 Foothill Circle. In 1986, we were over in the town office building when Mr. Ramsey wanted to develop his property at Bell Arbor. I was there. He wanted to dynamite. I don't know if that is the case. I'm going to stand with what I stood back in 1986. If dynamiting has to occur, the builders have to put up a bond with the town to protect the people and our homes. They have a right to build. They don't have a right to destroy our property and our property values. 7 years later, after I went up against Mr. Ramsey, he built what I suggested at that meeting, which were patio homes. I think the whole neighborhood, if dynamiting has to occur, we will all concur that a bond has to be put up. And like in 1986, when the board approved that, it needs to be done again.
Okay, thank you. My guess, I don't know what the requirements are, but there would definitely have to be a license and so on for any blasting at a site. That would be a definite.
Don't destroy my property.
Hi, my name is Steve Yehudik, and I live at 1286 Concord Cove.
What was your name, I'm sorry?
Steve Yehudik. Just, I concur with everything that's been said up here. I'm not going to repeat all that. But I did want to try to address one question, hopefully it's pertinent. I had heard that these homes were being built not for individual sale, but for long-term lease, so there wouldn't be permanent homeowners in those homes. I don't know if that has any impact on zoning or planning process, but I'll ask the company to comment on that, and maybe you could comment on that as well. Thank you.
You can address these questions. You guys have all had, so. All right, is that it? Anyone else? You good for now? Okay. Peter, you wanna address anything?
I guess what I'll do is I'll just address it kind of as an overall response in the fact that, you know, this is the purpose of this evening as a sketch plan review, is for us to present the initial concept and then use it as a mechanism to receive feedback so that we know what the key and critical issues are as we prepare the formal application. And as part of that formal application process, there are several requirements we know we have to meet and address, and those include drainage, stormwater management being designed for the town standards and the New York State DEC standards. There will be soil and geotechnical investigations to understand the soil properties of the overall property, if there's presence of groundwater, bedrock, all of that, and thus what engineering design has to be completed to address that. Point being is there's the State Environmental Quality Review Act, which the Planning Board will take the lead on, and as you know, that process requires the board to take a hard look at all of the various factors that are raised during the process. We have the responsibility as the applicant to address those to the board's satisfaction to show that there should not be the potential for any significant environmental impact. So my point being is, this is all good information for us to use to know what are the key and important issues. Just like I assume, I know it will occur, we will receive the PRC memo and minutes, which will identify the staff issues. We'll take comments we've heard this evening from the board members also, as it relates to density, lot standards change, such that we use all of that to put that into framing the overall preliminary subdivision application that will come back before this board to address those comments and propose the subdivision on behalf of the applicant.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Pete.
Sir, you did not address the last speaker's question as to will the houses be leased or will they be sold?
You can't be from the audience talking anymore. We're done with it. We gave you the privilege to speak. Again, this isn't a public hearing, so let him, there'll be another meeting in the future, that'll be preliminary hearing. Preliminary is a public hearing, that's when anyone can speak. We're doing this just to get some information to see where people stand, that's all. So I don't want to make it, a contacting and debatable situation. So you can hold till then, thanks. All right, okay, Peter, thank you. I guess right now, the first thing we should be looking at, the board, is to develop this as cluster development or standard R3 development.
I don't believe that this falls in what we intend to be a cluster development.
I'm in agreement with that.
And I think we should just go to standard development. I agree with you that the stormwater management should be on one lot or not spread over 4 or 5 lots. But this is not what I believe what we want to see for cluster development.
Okay. Anybody else have a comment on it?
I'm just looking at the stormwater management here, where it's,
Well, I don't want to go to stormwater. I want to just stick with type of development initially.
Standard or cluster.
Either cluster or standard development.
Cluster, we intend cluster to give us a meager amount of green space. for
Yeah.
development.
Correct.
And this is not,
Yeah, I think we're in agreement with that. That was the consensus at the PRC. Same thing. Any thoughts down there? How do you feel?
I'll go with standard.
Standard?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think everybody's in, okay, so we crossed one bridge with it. So with regard to the size, there'll be standard size lots, there won't be the, cluster type development. Okay. The next question, now go ahead, that's, now you're talking about drainage. The way it's shown in the standard development, it's showing it on, like a little over 2 of the lots. That, years ago, unless that became a homeowners association, unless that became a homeowners association or something where it's maintained, then we allowed it at a couple of lots like that. But it's been the practice to 1 lot for the drainage. So the lot, the way you've got it actually designed, Peter, on your cluster development would work, but with the standard size lots. I think that's the direction. Do you guys agree with that?
Yes.
I think that's where we,
my only thing was the location of it. If it's on one lot like that, as it's shown on the cluster plan, it's just, to me, that looks like it's too close to the road. Usually those detention ponds are kind of in the back or on.
No, you want it there. They won't, it's got to be accessible for the town. They want to have it close to the road as possible. Where they have access to it.
I understand.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. They're all like
Usually
that.
there's
It's standard.
a road down to them. Okay.
No, it's standard like that. The one on Bay Road, oh my God, we want on that. The new development proposed for Salt Road, it runs that whole length of the Salt Road there.
Yeah.
So that's a definite. They want to have, highway department wants to have access to that, by all means. All right, so the gist of it, I guess, would be standard lots, drainage, and one of the lots, basically all the drainage would be on one lot, actually. That's
Mr. Chairman,
yeah.
can I ask one question about that? And we'd be willing to take it to the PRC However, you know, obviously with siting a drainage facility, topography is one of the controlling factors, because obviously you want to locate these facilities at the low end of the property
Right.
where the current drainage patterns are. There is the possibility actually that this facility could actually be split by the right-of-way. My point being is, what I mean by that is it actually could be on the north and the south side because of the way that drainage pattern is, which is a southeast to northwest drainage pattern. So when you say put it all on one lot, we may end up putting it on both sides of the right-of-way. And that could actually function better. But we'd be willing to take that to the PRC and walk that through with them. I just don't want to get,
If you did that, Peter, so like, you have like two ponds, basically.
yeah, and
Okay,
then
so one would be on the north side, one on the south side.
and they'd probably be connected by a pipe under the.
Excuse me, I don't think that would be an issue, because then, on the one side of the road, that could be with lot number 1, we'll call it.
Right.
And if it's on the south side, it might be with lot number 5.
Okay, I just want to make
Just
sure.
so that, yeah,
Okay.
I don't think that would be an issue. Dave, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, we'd wind up with a,
Paul, what do you think, something like that?
Well, I think we just have to get more information
Yeah,
related
but I
to.
mean, the theory of it.
Yeah,
In other words, it's not stretching across two lots, you know what I mean, 3 lots.
yeah, the individual green infrastructure that's shown on each of the lots there, I think is not realistic, you know.
Well, I'll disagree with that in the fact that it is a standard required practice, or recommended practice of doing a rain garden or an individual lot. They actually prefer it to be on the actual lot itself. It's just our typical practices are to consolidate them into a single facility. And the point is, you can do either or, so.
I
mean-
think there needs to be more information related to the grading
Yeah,
to,
but you
to
said
look
you
at that.
bring that into PRC.
That's what we would do.
I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah, in
Basically,
regards,
the theory of that to me, kind of unique, but that actually could serve as a buffer between the current residential
Correct.
also.
Yes, it
And-
would.
And that's the reason we've done this years ago, when it's on 2 or 3 lots, originally done like that years ago. What happened, you took care of it, I didn't
Yeah.
take care of mine, and we got into issues, and the town
Yeah.
got involved. This way, if it's on one lot, that homeowner generally takes care of the pond.
Mhm. Right,
So
I
it's not two
agree,
separate
yeah.
sides, it would be an issue. Okay, we're good with that.
Yep.
You fellas agree with that, right? All right, anything else we need?
No.
That's, again, it's just a sketch plan, so. All right, I guess anybody else, any questions, or
no, I think we gave all the
How's that?
information we need.
what's that, Dave?
I think we gave them all the information.
Yeah,
we need.
yeah. Those are the biggest concerns.
Very good.
All right, good, thank you, Peter.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Lord.